Hello and welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast. I am your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst. Today is International Women's Day, so I would love to just celebrate all the women in business today and all the women I've had on this podcast, all of the women that I work with. It is just so amazing to be able to work with women and support women, and truly my favorite part of business is the community aspect, and I have met so many incredible women in my nearly 3 years of business that have just motivated me, inspired me, kept me going, all of these things. And so I love today's holiday, and I am posting on social media on Instagram and Facebook and most likely LinkedIn to celebrate all of the women in my life and in my business that I work with. Okay, so let's get into today's episode. Today I'm speaking with Samatha Gladish. She is a business mentor, lead gen, and sales expert, and lover of all things online marketing. Samantha is the host of the Wellness Witch podcast, which is in the top 4% of podcasts globally. She talks a little bit about how she got there, and also she changed her podcast name. So if you are ever wondering, like, how do I change a podcast name? Is it possible? Listen to this episode because Samantha successfully did it. So Samantha tells us about her journey to becoming an entrepreneur. She really has two parts of her business. She does the business mentorship, and then she also is the CEO of Holistic Wellness, an online business that helps women optimize their health and hormones. So she is in two separate sides of the internet and has combined them into one business, which I think is super inspiring. So in this episode, we talk about the ups and downs of business, the truth behind entrepreneurship, how she built the foundation to her business, and she gives some really great tips on automations, building funnels, and really just, the basics of what you need to run a business. She has a unique perspective because she started her business before the era of social media, so she was really tasked with building email lists and websites and organic leads and things like that. And so we talk about that and how Instagram and social media has changed the business world. So this episode is really, really amazing. Definitely go and connect with Samantha. All of her links are in the show notes. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to her or myself. And if you love this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so more people can find this podcast and connect with me. I love growing community, so that is my favorite part of business, as I mentioned. All right, let's get right into this episode with Samantha Gladish. Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I am so excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Samatha Gladish. I am a hormone nutritionist and a business mentor. I kind of live in both worlds, the nutrition world and the business world. Both are very much my passions. I started in the nutrition space many years ago. I graduated from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition probably like 15 years ago or something like that. And I was excited to become a health coach and start working with clients. And I did that for many years in the offline space. I did like personal training and some one-to-one coaching. And then I transitioned to the online space about 8 years ago. And throughout that process of growing my nutrition business and really focusing on women's health and hormones, I fell in love with marketing. And I feel like I'm part marketer. Well, I felt like at the time I was part marketer, part nutritionist. And you kind of have to learn to love both, right? Or at least learn to love the marketing. And luckily, I really did love the marketing. I was so excited about learning how to grow business and email marketing and social media and Facebook ads and just learning as much as I could. And so as my nutrition business was really taking off, I had lots of practitioners and health coaches reach out and just, ask, how are you doing this? How are you getting clients? And that led me to start coaching practitioners and health coaches. And essentially after being in the health space for over 15 years, it came to a point where I really just wanted to spend my time coaching in the business space. So I still run a health podcast. It's a kind of, I like to call it like a health and wealth podcast because we talk about all kinds of things. We have still online nutrition programs. I just don't work with clients one-to-one in the nutrition space anymore, and really transitioned over to business mentorship. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. I love that journey that you went on. And I would love to hear, how did you actually get started in the business world? So you said that you went to school for natural health, but before that,
Mhm.
like what did that process look like? And then at what point were you like, wow, I'm going to start my own business? Or maybe that was always
Totally.
in your vision.
Well, to be quite honest, I never actually thought entrepreneurship was going to be the route that I took. I went to the University of Toronto. Yes, I'm in Canada. I went to the University of Toronto and I initially wanted to become a teacher. So that was why I went to school, to get my Bachelor of Arts, and I wanted to teach high school. And I think I was very driven by like having 2 months off. And so that was really exciting. Well, there was my first hint of wanting time freedom, right? But I didn't really know it back then. So I wanted to become a teacher and I went to university, and partway through, I was just like, this is so not exciting. Like, this is not what I want to do. And even just being in that learning, that environment was not really conducive for me. And, just sitting in a class and hearing like a teacher basically like read out of a text. And it's not to say all my professors were like that, but some of them were just super dry. And you're just sitting there and it was not very exciting. And so I was like, man, I don't think this is the route I want to go. And basically, if there was one place you could find me, it was in the gym. Like, health and fitness was just like a big part of my life. And I was really connected to food and nutrition and working out and being active and in sports and all of that. So I remember just being with a friend one day and they were talking about going to study to be a holistic nutritionist. And I was just like, what? Like, you can do that? I didn't even think that was a thing. And so graduated from University of Toronto, immediately went to apply to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition and enrolled in that right away and started that right away. And so here I am thinking, great, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And this is when those seeds were starting to get planted. And I was thinking, okay, great, I'm going to have my own practice and work with clients, whether that's maybe on my own or maybe working in a clinic. Like, I didn't fully knew what it was all going to look like. But I do remember being in the business class and the teacher saying, do you know that you could charge $75 an hour? And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make so much money doing what I love to do and telling people what to eat and supporting their health. This is going to be amazing. And then I graduated from school and, well, it was crickets. I mean, nobody came knocking down my door. I did what most people do, is they put up a website and they get business cards. And it's not like that was bringing people through the door either. So that is what led me to actually go and work in the health and wellness space. It was working for other companies. I went on to work in a health food store, manage a health food store. I went on to become a sales rep for supplement companies. And I was teaching kickboxing classes and Pilates classes. Like, I was working in the health and wellness space, but doing it on my own, like, I just didn't know what to do. I really didn't. So after I graduated from nutrition school, I was just, like I said, no one came knocking down my door. I felt really uncertain about it all. Didn't know what to charge. I got a handful of clients here and there, but it was very messy. And so it really wasn't until, working for these other companies and building these other companies and giving all my time and energy to these other companies, did I really start to plant this seed in my own brain of like, do I really want to do this long term? Like, there's got to be a way. I have to really figure out how to do my own thing, because I know I don't want to be working for somebody. And so I started networking and diving into online marketing and learning marketing. And that's kind of how that process started. So that was a little long-winded.
No, I love hearing those stories of how people came from what they thought they were going to be doing to what they actually love doing now. And so that's what
Totally.
this podcast is all about, hearing those stories and really getting inspired. So that's super powerful. And thank you for sharing. I
Thanks.
also would love to talk about, the truth behind entrepreneurship, as some would say, like you love the marketing parts, but there's so many ups and downs and so many things that we go through as entrepreneurs. I'd kind of love to hear your story and then also how you help your clients, your business mentorship clients through this.
Absolutely. So those first few years in my business, I mean, they were exciting. There was so much to learn. There was a lot of discomfort. I basically, just to backtrack a little bit, I was basically working as a sales rep for the supplement company. And it was while I was at this company that I was starting to dive into my own business. So I had kind of one foot in the door in my own business and one foot in the door at this sales rep job. And so I was networking, I was learning marketing, I was taking some online courses, and I was starting to get a bit of traction in my online business. And I was working with clients, I was getting interviewed on podcasts. Like there was this traction that was happening. And it was slow, but it was happening. I was putting myself out there, I was connecting with people. Like, I mean, literally just emailing podcasters and pitching myself. I didn't have this crazy busy business. I didn't have all of these followers and, all these things. I didn't have any of that, but I was just taking imperfect action because I knew this is what I wanted to do. So I was just putting myself out there and I was building this traction. And it got to this point where I was like, okay, I have one foot in the door in my business, which is slowly building traction. And I have one foot in the door at this job. Something's got to give. If I want this to grow, like I'm going to have to get uncomfortable and like quit my job. And sure enough, I ended up getting fired like weeks later after basically having that conversation with myself, which was a blessing in disguise. The universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And that basically led to no plan B. And that led to me just diving full force into my business. I had $4,000 in my bank account. I had to, pay for all the things, my rent and food and car and phone and all of the things. And I just totally banked on myself. I was like, there is no plan B. I'm figuring this out. And I hired my very first business coach. And it was, not a ton of money, but still, when you have $4,000 in your bank account and you don't really have a ton of money coming in, it was just this like deep sense of knowing that nothing is going to take off or work unless I make it work and show up for it. And it was super uncomfortable. There was so many answers, I just didn't know things, right? So that's why I hired support. And slowly but surely things started to pick up and it was gaining traction and it was really exciting and amazing. And then I started to have this consistency. And I think within that first year, I actually replaced my income from my full-time job. And that happened because I took daily, imperfect, consistent action, which I feel like is probably something your listeners have heard a million times on your podcast, but that is really what happened. So going back to the question, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, basically, those first few years were very up and down. Like I had so many ideas, as I'm sure you do, squirrel brain. And it was like really having to sit down and focus and think about the things that were going to move the needle the quickest. And like, what is the lowest hanging fruit in my business? And at that time, it was working with clients one-to-one, selling a higher end coaching package. That's what allowed me to hit my income goals. And then from there, as I built a little bit of stability with that income, I was able to create some like lower barrier programs and, put my creative energy into some other things because I had some stability. And so I think what happens is a lot of people are trying to do all of the things at once and there's like no real structure. I think also in today's day and age with obviously social media, I think we see this idea that we have to be posting content online and this is how you grow your business. Like this is how everyone starts their business now. It's like, okay, well, I got to create an Instagram account and start posting online. I didn't have Instagram back in the day. I actually didn't even have Facebook, to be quite honest. It was very late to the game. I had Twitter. And so I think what we see nowadays is like everybody in this mindset that like, oh, well, I got to start a business. So I'm going to post on social media. And it's like you neglect building all those foundational elements in your business and like setting up systems and understanding lead generation and understanding how to create a sales system and create your signature program and actually how to sell and nurture your community and build an email list. Like those are foundational elements. And I had to learn all of that. And I think like when it comes to, back to the question, the truth about entrepreneurship is like, don't skip these foundational elements. You have to build these systems and have them in place. Otherwise, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And it's so easy to get caught up in, I'm just going to post content online, but that doesn't actually lead anywhere. And so I feel like I was, in a sense, lucky that Instagram didn't exist or social media wasn't where it was, like where it is now. And I really didn't have a choice but to actually sit down and build my email list and learn lead generation and put sales systems in place. And I built that foundation. And I think, again, just a lot of us skip that. And so learning tech, learning these things, I think a lot of us shy away from it.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Right. And I know so many of my students are like, oh, I hate tech. Oh, I hate selling. Oh, I hate posting on social media. And it's like, this stuff is learnable. It's actually easier than you think. And it's like anything else. Once you practice it and show up little by little, like a little becomes a lot. And so like, if you want to grow a business, the truth is you have to learn these pieces and don't undermine them and don't neglect them.
Do you want to start growing your business rapidly in a really fun way? Do you want to increase your visibility and profits? I have just the thing for you. My course, Great Guesting, How to Grow Your Business Through Being a Podcast Guest, is now available, and it's guaranteed to get you on podcasts. Do you want to connect with more clients, share your story, make stronger connections, and grow your audience? But do you find that you're second guessing yourself, are indecisive on a topic because you're into so many things, and thinking, is this even possible? You'll love this step-by-step guide on how to be a podcast guest. We go over 6 lessons that are knowing your story, narrowing down the topic, finding podcasts to be on, setting up your audio, preparing to record, and of course, marketing, because that's what I'm all about. Being a guest can be fun, but if you don't have a plan to go with it, you're really just spending the hour talking. You're not moving your business forward, and that's exactly what this course is designed to teach you. You can find this course on my website at Espresso Podcast Production, and I guarantee you that you will be a guest on podcasts in no time. Yes, that is such great advice. When I first started my business, it was growing so fast. I literally was like, thank you, universe, for making everything work out. But like, I didn't know any of the business stuff. So I had to take a month off, when some of my clients' contracts ended, and not take any more on for a month, because I was like, I need to set up the backside of my business. Like all of this
Well,
tech
good for
stuff
you.
needs to get set up. But, with your clients, I'm sure that they have that all set up before they get crazy busy, right?
So it varies. Like in our mentorship program, we work with students who are brand new. So like have not built anything before. And so that's a great thing because we get to work with them from the ground up and like, ground zero, and teach them all these fundamentals and help them set all these systems up. And then you also have we have students who come into our mentorship who are maybe like anywhere from 2 to 4 years in business, but they've kind of neglected a lot of the automation and the systems. And they're at this point where they just can't grow and they can't scale and they're feeling so exhausted. And so it's like we have to backtrack and refine things in their business. So those are often sort of the 2 sort of clients that come into our mentorship.
Totally. And do you work with them like with a framework, like maybe one that you used, or, what does your coaching program actually look like?
Yeah. So essentially, I'm taking clients through the foundational elements that's going to allow them to grow and scale. So what that means is learning lead generation and putting lead generation systems in place. I think for a lot of people, especially if you're new, you're like, lead generation? Like, what is that? Right. And it's basically just having systems in place to generate leads in your business. And I don't love using those terms because I feel like sometimes it could be very like bro marketing, but I say it because I think a lot of us just understand and we get that, because it's not just leads. Like these are people with beating hearts, and we want to build relationships with them and nurture them. And so really understanding that and generating leads in business, having those systems in place, learning how to nurture your leads and your community. And that means building your email list. That means learning copywriting and messaging and branding. And then essentially from there, leading into like a rinse and repeat selling system, which is what I like to call it. So thinking about, we help our clients think about what it is they want to sell. What's the main thing that they want to be selling? Is it group coaching programs? Is it one-to-one? What does that look like? And helping them to essentially create the signature program and then the system to really sell into that. And then automating all of it so that they have more ease, they have more flexibility, and that's what can actually help them with scalability.
I love that. The automation part is, for me, one of the most complicated ones to learn, but it has the most payoff, honestly.
Oh, for sure. Yes, it really does. If you want to leverage your time, automate.
Yes, absolutely. And, as you know, I am all about podcasting. I'm a podcast producer, all of that. And you have a podcast. I would love for you to tell us about your podcast and like how you use it in your marketing, because podcasting can be such an amazing marketing tool.
Absolutely. Yes, you would definitely know all the ins and outs around this for sure. And so I started my podcast in 2018. I was already a couple of years in business, and I basically had already built up this really great community, and I was kind of doing some blogging. I was obviously writing emails. I was producing a lot of content in different ways. And it just kind of came to this point where I was like, I'm kind of done with like blogging, and there's got to be other options and for, other ways for me to get my message and my voice out there. And so podcasting it was. And so 2018, I started it, and it actually took me quite a few months of, analysis by paralysis to really get it out there because I was getting so hung up on the name. But as having a strategic name is important. And so I didn't just want to call it anything, and I didn't want to generalize. So I named it after a program that I have called Healthy Hormones for Women. So that's what I named it. And it grew really, really quickly. And it was mainly because the searchability of it. So many women were searching hormones. And so the podcast kept popping up. And so that's what I named it, Healthy Hormones for Women. And I did solo episodes, interview people. And essentially I was using this as a tool it was another way to market my business, right? So when I started it, I was like, I am going to get sponsors right off the bat. Like I'm going to get sponsors through the door before this first episode has even gone out there. And I did. I basically was lucky enough to have some really great relationships with a lot of different brands and supplement companies because I had been in that industry for quite some time. And I reached out to them and basically let them know what I was doing and what I was creating and what the future of it was going to look like and where my brand already was. And I had people that already came on board right from the start, which was really exciting. So there was obviously money going out because I was paying for production. And that's an important piece to talk about because I knew the podcast would never happen if it was all on my plate to do the editing and everything. I needed to hire out or it would never even be a thing. So I made that, a priority to search out somebody who could like edit and produce it and do all that for me. So that was really important and got sponsors right from the start. So that was really great to, bring in a little bit of revenue from there. And then I used the podcast to obviously talk about coaching in our online programs and also do some affiliates with some other products and companies. And it was last February of 2022, I decided to change the name. So it's called The Wellness Witch. And I changed the name because, well, I evolved as a woman and my brand has evolved. And I didn't just want to be stuck in this space of hormones. I love the hormone conversation, but I really wanted to expand it beyond that. And I still have wellness topics and wellness guests, but I also talk about business and spirituality and personal growth and, some woo-woo things and plant medicine. And it's an opportunity for me to share more about who I am and what I love. And I think that that's really important because, like I said, if you just keep it's why I changed the name from healthy hormones to, to the wellness switch, because I didn't just want to be stuck in this one box. And I think it's really easy for people to just to see you as that one thing. And it's like, as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure this is the case for you, like we're very multifaceted and we wear a lot of hats, and there's a lot of things about me that are interesting beyond just hormones. And I want to create a space where I could share that and also attract others who are interested in that too. And I think that was just a really important piece of just being true to myself and honoring my voice. So that's currently where the podcast is today. And it's grown, quite big. I think there's over 2 million downloads now in 92 countries. And it's really exciting.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Totally. Evolution is a part of entrepreneurship 100%. Like, if you aren't growing, you're really not learning new things and seeing what else you can offer to the world. And so I have absolutely loved your story and all the advice that you've shared so far.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap up this episode, I would love it if you could share 3 actionable steps for the audience to start with today that they could, use to grow. So what do you challenge our audience to do? Evolve, maybe.
Oh my God. Okay. 3 things. So this is a big one. And, really sitting with the question or the idea around, is it really about the money? And this was a big thing for myself. I often used it as an excuse, and it really wasn't about the money. It was, for holding back on investing in myself and taking that next leap and that next jump into the next evolution and getting that support. It really wasn't about the money. I made it about the money because that's what seemed like the easy thing to do, and I could hide behind that. But it was really about not trusting myself. That's really what it was about. Not trusting myself. Can I really show up? Can I really do this? Am I capable? The money, I can get resourceful. I think we've all been there where we wanted something and we can get resourceful and really figure it out. And so I had to really just be honest with myself around that. And if I wanted to grow and create this future that I was envisioning around time freedom and financial freedom and travel and, all of the things, that's on me. And I had to take full responsibility for that and really own that. And the only way that was going to happen was if I really showed up and invested and got support around those areas that I just didn't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So that would be one thing to maybe challenge yourself with and sit with. Is it really about the money? Like, what is it that's really holding you back? Wow. What else? 2 other things. Just do it. Like, just take imperfect action in whatever capacity that looks like for you. If you are sitting around right now overthinking your next Instagram post or the next email you're going to write, your list, or the video you're going to create, or maybe you want to start that podcast, you can't figure out answers to these things by sitting back and thinking them through. It doesn't work that way. You figure out the answers and you gain clarity by taking action. So take the action, even if it's imperfect and it's messy. It's all good. The last thing, oh my goodness, connections. Build connections. I mean, that's what that's what you're really in business for. It's connecting and building relationships. So I'm sure your listeners, they're all in different stages of business, but I think we do get caught up sometimes in this idea that, oh, I could just post online and kind of run away, or I could just, I don't have to be on camera. I could just post up images and stuff like that and hide. No, you really can't. You're in the relationship business, build relationships with people, connect with people, get into conversations. As we see the online space evolving with like AI and, there's so many things, and it's really taking away that authenticity and that real connection between people, that real emotion. And that's what people need, especially, I work with students who are in the health and wellness space, and people need support, people need help, and they want to feel supported, and they want to feel like you understand them. You're not just here to make a sale, you're really here to build a relationship and make a connection. So
Yeah.
those are my 3 things.
I love those. And I think that that last part is 100% true, with just like connections are what makes entrepreneurship fun, truly. And I
Yes.
love how all three of yours connect with really understanding what you want to put out into the universe. So those are great actionable steps. I absolutely love those. And I'd also love to hear like who you work with, like who is in your business mentorship program.
Yeah. So we work with basically women who are in the health and wellness space. So whether you're a nutritionist, a practitioner, a health coach, definitely life coaching, that's typically who we draw into our programs. Any kind of like even spirituality coaching, psychotherapy, those are typically the women that we work with inside of our program. And I kind of alluded to it earlier. You might be in the very beginning stages of business where you have nothing set up, and that's totally okay. And then you may be in those, for 2 to 4 years in business where you have some momentum, perhaps you have some automation and some systems set up, but there are some gaps and a few things broken and some things that perhaps you've neglected along the way, and you're looking to kind of fill those gaps and get support to go to the next level. Yeah, so we function as part mentorship, but also part digital marketing agency. So we do actually build our clients' funnels and sales systems for them.
Ooh, that's very nice. I love that part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really great.
because that could be the hardest part that holds people back, just like actually setting it up.
It really is. My mentorship before never used to include the digital marketing
Mhm.
piece, and we'd be working with students, and it would just be like months and months and months before any of them would take action on building these things. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay, we're going to do it for you so that you can have momentum and stop using this as an excuse. And so now that's what we do, and it's been great.
totally. Before we close out, because you have this big passion for marketing, and I think that is where maybe a lot of entrepreneurs kind of struggle. Maybe they love content creation, but they don't have that strategy behind it, the actual marketing strategy. What advice would you give to them? And maybe like, what is it that you actually do to have this marketing spark in you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's marketing, but at the end of the day, just going back to what I said about connections and relationships, like that's really what it's about. I think we get really tripped up in our heads because, well, number one, we're comparing ourselves to what others are doing online, and we feel like we need to build a business based on what they're doing. That's not the case. Build it based on what aligns with you. And don't think about necessarily like, I guess marketing goes hand in hand with sales. So I think a lot of people get tripped up because it's like, oh, I don't want to sell. But why else did you go to school to get your degree and, have these certifications? It's because you want to go out there and help people, right? And so it's not about sales, it's actually about being of service. And in exchange for that, there's money, and that's an energy exchange, and that's okay. So I think that perhaps it's just like working through some of that, because I think when it comes to marketing, that goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with sales. It goes hand in hand with connections, relationships, right? Serving. Like there's a lot to kind of work through there. And I think just some people are just really overthinking it, really overthinking it. And at the end of the day, if you're in this position where you're spinning your wheels and you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and you are just not getting traction, go invest in support. that's what it's there for. Again, we all invested to go to school and get our certifications and get our degrees and put so much time and energy to do that. But yet there sometimes seems to be this block for investing in ourselves and our business and our future. So, we kind of have to suck it up and be honest with ourselves and really just take self-responsibility where we can shine and what's our zone of genius, and then what we really need support around, and go out there, get support. And that's actually going to create so much more time flexibility for you. It's going to give you so much strategy, and it's going to help provide so much more efficiency and effectiveness in your business. And I think a lot of us, we value money. We put money up on this pedestal when actually it's our time. And time is what we should really value most, because you could literally spend the next 2 years trying to save money and get nowhere in your business, or you can spend the money so that you could save years of, all of that spinning your wheels, right? So I think it's just a bit of a mindset shift around that.
Yeah, I was going to say totally a mindset shift. And I heard this quote the other day, and it was something like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, because then you're not learning. And I think that's also a big mindset shift, because growing up, like, we always want to be smart. We want to know everything. And sometimes being not the dumbest, but like the most beginner person in the room, that's where you'll make the most growth. And so absolutely investing in business and in yourself, super powerful. So I love those points that you made. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Samantha, where can people find you? Where can people come in and connect with you?
Yeah, so I do love hanging out on Instagram. I have 2 different accounts there. So if you're interested on the wellness side of things, you can connect with Holistic Wellness Witch. And if you're interested on all things entrepreneurship and business growth, you can connect with Samantha_Gladish.
Awesome. And if they want to talk to you about your business mentorship program, is that where they should come message you?
Yeah, I mean, you can learn more about the mentorship by going to my website, samanthagladish.com/mentorship, but you can always send me a DM and we can connect that way for sure.
Perfect. Well, I will put all of those in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have loved this conversation so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.